I don't think I ever noticed when it started, that slow shift from being a son to being a safety net, from being someone with a future to being the one who kept the lights on. By the time I hit 30, I wasn't chasing dreams or climbing career ladders like my peers in Seattle. I was working overtime at a creative tech firm just to pay bills that weren't even mine. Most of my friends were booking weekend getaways, playing pickleball, posting bar crawls. Me, I was wiring money to my parents' account, covering therapy sessions for my sister Rachel, who, by the way, hadn't held a job in over a year, and dealing with my mom's late-night guilt calls that always started with Ethan's sweetheart. It was like clockwork. She'd pause, dramatically say something like, "Rachel's not doing so well emotionally," and I already knew what was coming, another invoice. Another thing I'd have to figure out how to afford. They called it support. I called it quiet debt. No one asked if I was doing okay. No one noticed I was burning out, trying to keep everyone else afloat, and Rachel. She lounged around in my childhood bedroom, scrolling through remote job listings she'd never applied, saying she was waiting for something that aligns with her values. Meanwhile, I was canceling my own dentist appointments to save money, real aligned. You'd think after a while they'd acknowledge how much I was doing, but no, Rachel was healing, and I was just expected to handle the practical stuff because I could, because I always had. And then there was the trip, Rome, Italy. I had always wanted to go, ever since college. I found an old bucket list I scribbled during finals. Week 1. Learn to make pasta 2. See the Vatican 3. Cheese in Italy with Mom. Yeah, well, life happened. Still, I started planning. I thought, maybe I could gift my family one stretch of joy that wasn't attached to guilt. I booked everything. The hotel in Trastevere, the vineyard tour. Dad always said he'd love the cheese tasting my mom used to talk about, like it was a far-off fantasy. I paid for the flights, coordinated everything down to breakfast times and terrace views. I printed an itinerary and highlighted everyone's names. Like a fool, I wanted this to be a turning point, something good. But the day before our flight, I got hit by a car on my way to a client pitch. Next thing I knew, I woke up in a hospital bed with a busted side stitches and a nurse telling me I was lucky to be alive. I didn't feel lucky, I felt disposable. And when my parents showed up with Rachel in tow, clutching a neck pillow and sipping hospital coffee, they didn't bring flowers, they brought news. We're still going. My mom said, eyes bright. Since you're in no condition to travel, we thought it'd be best if Rachel used your ticket. She could really use the break. I blinked. I wasn't sure if the morphine made me hallucinate that, or if they really just told me they were flying to Italy without me on a trip I had planned and paid for. Spoiler, they really did. They left. I watched them walk out of my hospital room with their roller bags clicking down the hallway like it was just any other vacation morning. My mother didn't cry. My dad didn't even look me in the eye. Rachel said something about finding a good Airbnb host and asked if I could just hire someone to check on the house while they were away. I didn't respond. I physically couldn't. I was still groggy, stitched up, and trying to remember how to breathe through broken ribs. When the door clicked shut behind them, the silence that followed felt louder than the crash that put me there. For the first time in my life, I wasn't just overworked or underappreciated. I was completely erased, left behind. Without hesitation, all the justifications I'd built up over the years, they're just stressed. It's temporary. Rachel's struggling collapsed into something brutal clarity. So I did what I do best. I handled it. I asked the nurse to get my phone from my belongings. My hands were shaking when I found the trip folder in my inbox. Each confirmation email, a little digital betrayal, hotel, car service, cheese tour, wine day. I canceled all of it, every single reservation, one by one. I imagined them arriving in Rome, jet-lagged and clueless, expecting luxury, expecting the seamless experience I had spent hours tailoring to them, but instead, nothing. No plans, no bookings, just cobblestones and confusion. I didn't cancel the flights right away. That took a minute. But when I did, when I hovered over that cancel reservation button and finally hit it, it wasn't revenge. It was survival. I wasn't their backup plan anymore. I was done being their infrastructure. The first text came at 2:17 a.m., then a call, then another, and another by sunrise. I had 14 missed calls. Rachel's first message. "This is messed up, Ethan. We're stranded. I hope you're happy." Then my mom, Ethan, how could you do this to us? After everything we've done for you. My dad, fix this, your mother is in tears. Not a single one asked if I was okay, not one. They weren't concerned about my recovery, just their inconvenience, their ruined trip, their lack of 5-star lodging. It was like I'd stopped being their son and had just become some kind of human travel agent with a guilt clause. So I grabbed the hospital menu and turned it over. Drew 3 columns, calls, texts, voicemails, titled it Family Feedback Tracker. Started tallying a joke at first, but then it felt like something more proof. By dinner, I had 30 missed calls and 20 texts. All guilt, no compassion, all demands, no humanity. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel obligated to respond. Instead, I rested, I breathed, I let the silence stay. And then something unexpected happened. Noah from design showed up. He stood in the doorway, holding a pastry bag and 2 coffees. You didn't think we'd let you survive on Jell-O and mystery meat, did you? Behind him was Avery from Content, waving a tabloid magazine and muttering something about the latest office scandal. And just like that, my room felt human again, though. Not because of blood ties, but because these people actually saw me. They brought coffee laughs, quiet companionship. No demands, no expectations, just presence. And it hit me maybe I hadn't been forgotten by everyone. Maybe I'd just been giving everything to the wrong people. 3 days after the texts stopped the hallway outside my hospital room, filled with the sharp sound of suitcase wheels. I knew before I saw them. The door burst open like a sitcom entrance. But no one was laughing, my mom. Diana stormed in, first sunglasses perched on her head like she was still somewhere between Fiumicino Airport and denial. Her linen jacket was wrinkled hair, frizzed, and the scarf I'd picked out for her Rome wardrobe was hanging off her purse like a forgotten napkin. Rachel trailed behind her, dragging a suitcase with the wheels half busted, complaining loudly about the motel they ended up in. It smelled like wet socks, she muttered. Like that was somehow my fault too. My dad, Paul, stood in the doorway, arms folded, silent like he'd rehearsed his judgment pose for the entire flight back. Mom didn't waste time. How dare you? She snapped, stepping right up to the foot of my bed like this was an intervention. You stranded your family in a foreign country. Do you have any idea how humiliated we were? She said it like I had been the one to walk out of the hospital while someone else lay broken under fluorescent lights. Rachel jumped in. We spent 2 hours trying to find a place to sleep. I had to share a room with them, a single bed. I looked at her, then at my mother, then at the duffel bag they'd knocked over by my IV stand. Noah's sunflowers were still fresh in a vase. Avery's gossip magazines were stacked next to the nurse call button, and I wasn't scared anymore. Lower your voice, Nurse Natalie warned from behind them, stepping in like the guardian angel I never asked for but desperately needed. This is a recovery ward, not a courtroom. Rachel rolled her eyes. He owes us an explanation. No, I didn't. I pushed myself upright, gripping the handrail with my good arm. My ribs still hurt, my balance was off. But I stood anyway, because if I could survive being literally hit by a car, I could handle this. You want an explanation? I said, keeping my voice even. Let's talk about what I owe. The room went still. For the last year, I paid your bills. I said, looking at Mom. I covered Rachel's therapy. I paid off the electricity, the groceries, the property taxes. I worked overtime, gave up my weekends, canceled my own plans, my life, so you could keep going. And I did it quietly. Rachel crossed her arms, trying to look bored. She wasn't. I turned to her. And you sat on the couch and complained that companies didn't get your vibe. You filtered job listings by unlimited vacation and remote first. You didn't even pretend to try. She opened her mouth to protest. I didn't let her. I gave you both a gift. That trip, I booked it. I paid for it. I built the itinerary like it was a second job because I thought maybe we could share something good for once. Mom's eyes were glassy now, but not from guilt, from disbelief, like she couldn't believe her golden son had gone off script. And when I got hit by a car, I continued voice cracking, just enough to hear myself feel it. When I was unconscious, bruised, broken, you left. You didn't pause. You didn't cry. You didn't stay. You boarded the flight without me. We didn't know how serious Mom started, and that's when she said it. You could have been permanently affected, she said carefully. We thought it was better to go while things were still usable. Woosable, that was it. That was the word that buried every memory of family game nights, holidays, shared meals. That word severed something in me. I'm done, I said simply. Then I pressed the nurse call button. Natalie, I said into the speaker, can you send security to my room? I'd like to restrict 3 visitors permanently. The look on my mother's face was like I'd just slapped her. You can't be serious. Rachel said, her voice shrill. I am. Security arrived within minutes. A tall guy named Omar stood between me and them like a silent wall. He didn't ask questions. He didn't have to. This patient is recovering from trauma, he said. We're going to ask you to leave now. Mom was yelling something about betrayal. Rachel huffed like this was all beneath her. Dad still hadn't said a word, just glared. I didn't say anything either. They walked out. Or rather, they were walked out. And for the first time, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt free. I sat back down, slowly, pain blooming across my chest like bruised ink. But it was clean pain, pain with a purpose. Because this time I hadn't collapsed under their weight. I'd stood up. The day they were removed from my room, I slept like I hadn't in years. No guilt loop running in the background. No vibrations of late-night Ethan. Can you just texts? Just silence. Clean, uninterrupted, gentle silence. I didn't realize how much I had been bracing for impact until there was nothing left to brace for. The next few days passed in a haze of healing. My ribs started cooperating. The color came back to my skin. I could take deeper breaths without wincing. Even walking to the end of the hallway felt like a victory. Natalie, the nurse who had stepped between me and my family, started calling me Marathon Man every time I shuffled past the nurse's station. It made me smile, which still hurt, but not in a bad way. People kept showing up. Noah came back with a weird board game we used to joke about during lunch breaks. Avery brought headphones and a downloaded playlist she claimed was scientifically proven to raise serotonin. Blake dropped off a whiteboard with passive-aggressive messages they'd seen in our office. Slack Harper, my manager, emailed me a simple message. Take your time. Your job is waiting. You are more important. It felt strange being supported without an agenda. Every visit, every note, every small act they added up, not in a transactional way, just in a quiet, solid one. Like reminders, you are not invisible here. And maybe for the first time in my adult life, I believed it. 3 weeks in, my discharge papers came. The doctor said I was healing faster than expected, probably because I wasn't under undue stress. I didn't have the heart to explain what my normal had looked like until now. No one came to pick me up. No family to help fold my things or carry my bag. I didn't care. When I opened the door to my apartment back in Seattle, the first thing I noticed was the stillness. No chaos, no voices, no stacked mail with Rachel's name on it, no urgent sticky notes from Mom, no signs of obligation. But there was something else. Fresh tulips in a mason jar on the counter. My dishes were clean. Trash was taken out. And on the fridge, a note in Avery's handwriting. Welcome home. Hey, we've got you. I stared at it for longer than I care to admit. My fridge was stocked with actual food. Not just frozen burritos or protein bars. There was even ice cream in the freezer, labeled with the days of the week, like some kind of hilarious emotional prescription. Thursday, Rocky Road. It hit me harder than anything my family had said, because this was care without strings. Over the next week, I rebuilt slowly. I logged into work part-time, caught up on projects, took walks. I even sat on my tiny balcony and just listened to the city. No pressure, no noise from my phone, demanding something, just presence. Then the family updates started. Not direct messages, of course. That would have required self-awareness, no. It came through the extended family grapevine texts from cousins and aunt's voicemail screenshots of Facebook posts from my mother. The headline, "Our son turned his back on us in our time of need." A whole dramatic post, 4 paragraphs of vague martyrdom, no mention of the accident, no explanation for their absence, just poetic whining about betrayal, ungrateful children, and a lost dream of family unity. And people believed it, at first, but then came the comments. My cousin Lucas. Ethan paid your bills for years. You left him in a hospital bed to sip wine in Rome. A friend of Rachel's chimed in. So you abandoned your son and rewarded your daughter who hasn't worked since 2022, got it. The post vanished within hours, but it didn't matter. Screenshots live forever, and truth has a funny way of surfacing even when you try to bury it in self-pity. I didn't respond. Not publicly, not privately. I didn't have to. I let the silence do the work. And you know what? It spoke louder than anything I could have said. They tried texting again. Mom sent a "we're still family" message with a sad emoji. Rachel asked if she could crash at my place while she figured things out. I didn't reply. Instead, I rebooked the Rome trip. Same hotel in Trastevere, same cheese tasting tour, same wine day, but this time, one room, one name. Mine. The confirmation email felt like a closing paragraph to a chapter I hadn't realized I was still trapped in. That night, I ate frozen lasagna and watched a documentary about pasta. I turned my phone on. Do not disturb, the city buzzed outside. But inside, everything felt still, not empty. Just mine. 4 months after my accident, I stepped off a plane at Leonardo da Vinci Airport with one carry-on bag, a crossbody satchel, and a heart that didn't feel like it was carrying everyone else's weight for once. Rome smelled like strong coffee and hot stone. The sun was still rising, casting long golden shadows across the pavement. A driver stood just outside the terminal, holding a sign that read, "Mr. Ethan Ward." No one had ever called me Mr. Anything unless it involved bills or junk mail. But here in this moment, it felt like something new. Something earned. I didn't look around for anyone else. There was no one to wait for, no Rachel frantically looking for a charger, no mom asking where to find an authentic cappuccino, no dad muttering about the exchange rate. It was just me finally. The hotel was exactly as I remembered it from the listing. Tucked between 2 aging art galleries in Trastevere, with ivy crawling up the walls and shuttered windows that opened to the narrow cobblestone streets below. The doorman greeted me like an old friend. My room had a small balcony set for one. It was perfect. That first day, I wandered without direction. No itinerary, no pressure. Just me, a map, and a sense of unfamiliar freedom. I tasted gelato that melted faster than I could eat it. I got lost in side streets where laundry hung like confetti between buildings. I stood in front of old statues and didn't read the plaques. I just existed. On the second day, I took the cheese tour, the one my mom had once talked about. Like it was a far-off dream, I sampled everything. Sharp, creamy, weirdly sweet. I didn't pretend to like her favorites. I didn't save anything for later. I savored them for me. That night, I went to the vineyard I had booked for my dad months earlier. The countryside was quiet, in a way Seattle never is. I sat under a trellis with a glass of bold red and watched the sun slide down behind distant hills. No one asked me what I was thinking. No one filled the silence. I let it stay. By the third day, something shifted. I sat at a small cafe on a corner, alone at a table with carbonara and a glass of Montillano. A violinist played nearby, not for a crowd, not even for tips, just because I watched strangers pass by laughing, linking arms, living full lives that had nothing to do with me. It wasn't lonely. It was peaceful. I pulled out my phone. There was still one old photo in my gallery, the last Thanksgiving with my family. I stared at it for a long time, the smiles, the subtle distance, even then, the weight in my own eyes I hadn't seen before. Then I deleted it. I took a new photo, my plate, the empty chair across from me, the lights strung overhead like stars on wire. It wasn't about proving anything. It wasn't even for social media. It was just a record, a small timestamp in a life I was finally living for myself. Later that night, back at the hotel, I extended my stay. 2 more days. No plans, no reservations, just space. It's funny how silence used to feel like punishment, like something to avoid, but now it feels like a room with the door finally closed on the noise that used to live rent-free in my head. They still try sometimes. My mom posts vague Facebook updates about family heartache. Rachel tags herself in motivational quotes about outgrowing toxicity. My dad, well, he's still allergic to accountability. But I don't respond. I don't engage. Because I've learned that peace doesn't always come wrapped in forgiveness. Sometimes It comes in choosing to stop explaining yourself, in refusing to shrink so others can stay comfortable, in walking away and not turning back. I didn't need a dramatic ending. Just this: a seat on a quiet street in Rome, a meal I didn't have to share, and a sky that belonged to no one but me. And maybe that's all I ever really needed. Story 2. I never imagined that my birthday would mark the start of a family rift. At 32, I had finally achieved a milestone, owning my own apartment. After years of budgeting and sacrifices, I stood in my new kitchen, overwhelmed with pride. My younger sister, Lily, was the opposite of me. Carefree, spontaneous, and often reliant on others. Despite our differences, I invited her and our mother to my housewarming party. Neither showed up. 3 weeks later, they appeared unannounced. Mom criticized my housekeeping, while Lily inspected my apartment with a critical eye. Over tea, Lily revealed she had broken up with her boyfriend and needed a place to stay. I hesitated, explaining that I valued my space and routine. Mom accused me of being selfish, reminding me of family obligations. Reluctantly, I agreed to let Lily stay for 4 months, with conditions: she had to find a job, contribute to expenses, and respect house rules. Initially, things went smoothly. Lily seemed motivated, attending interviews and even cooking dinner. But soon, her efforts waned. She became lazy, messy, and disrespectful. She hosted late-night parties, ignored house rules, and showed no interest in finding employment. Confrontations led to arguments, and when I reached out to Mom for support, she dismissed my concerns, accusing me of being too harsh. The final straw came when Lily brought home a stranger, intending for him to stay. Without my consent, I stood my ground, insisting he leave. Lily exploded, hurling insults and accusing me of jealousy. I calmly asked her to pack her things and leave. She did, slamming the door behind her. Mom called shortly after, furious that I had kicked Lily out. I ended the call, needing peace. In the days that followed, I cleaned the apartment, removing all traces of Lily's stay. I changed the locks and reclaimed my space. For my birthday, I hosted a small gathering with close friends and supportive family members. It was a celebration of independence and boundaries. Unexpectedly, Mom showed up uninvited. She confronted me in front of my guests, accusing me of abandoning Lily. I defended my actions, explaining that Lily had taken advantage of my kindness. Mom, in a fit of anger, slapped me and declared I was no longer her daughter. She left, leaving a stunned silence behind. I broke down, comforted by my friends. The party was over. But I felt a sense of relief. I had stood up for myself, setting boundaries that were long overdue. After Mom stormed out of my apartment, leaving behind a slap and a string of cruel words, I didn't cry right away. I just stood there, hand on my cheek, in front of a room full of stunned friends. It wasn't until my cousin Maya put her arms around me and whispered, "You didn't deserve that," that I finally let the tears fall. The days after that were quiet, too quiet. I took a few days off work, mostly to clean. It was more than just scrubbing floors or airing out the guest room. Cleaning became a way to reclaim what Lily had tried to make hers. She'd left behind a trail of destruction: moldy mugs under the bed, sticky countertops, wine stains, and cigarette burns on the windowsill. I threw out 3 trash bags of junk. I even bought new linens for the guest room, even though I didn't plan on letting anyone use it anytime soon. The silence was loud, but peaceful. For the first time in months, I woke up to the sound of birds outside, not drunken giggles or stomping feet. I drank coffee while watching the sun crawl across my balcony floor. No one demanding hangover cures or throwing tantrums over what flavor yogurt was missing. That peace, I clung to it. Mom didn't call. Not for a week, then 2, then a month. Nothing, which was fine by me. Maya, though, kept me in the loop. Apparently, Lily had moved in with Mom, and she hadn't shown up empty-handed. Her boyfriend, Jeffrey, or whatever his name was right there with her. 2 more mouths to feed, 2 more bodies taking up space. It didn't take long for the tension to start building over there, too. "They're throwing parties," Maya told me over lunch one afternoon. "Loud ones. Cops came once. Neighbors are not happy." I bit into my sandwich and shrugged. Not my circus anymore. Mom learned the hard way every time she called Maya to complain about Lily sleeping until noon, or Jeffrey using her car without asking. Maya would remind her, "Madison tried to warn you." Still, I stayed quiet. No calls, no texts. I blocked Mom's number after she left me a voicemail calling me cruel and cold-hearted. I didn't need that energy in my life. The weeks passed. My life got better. Work was good. I started waking up early on weekends just to enjoy quiet mornings. I rejoined my yoga class. I even started dating someone, a gentle, funny guy named Ben, who respected my boundaries and always listened without trying to fix things. He said my home felt calm, like a place where the world stopped spinning so fast. Then came the call. It was a gray Thursday rain tapping on the windows. I was curled up with a book when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Normally I wouldn't answer, but something told me to pick it up. "Hello," I said cautiously. A pause. Then Madison. I knew that voice. "Please," Mom said, "don't hang up." I didn't say anything, just waited. "You were right," she said softly, "about everything." It was surreal hearing those words from her mouth. She told me Lily and Jeffrey had taken over the house. They didn't work, didn't clean. They had friends over constantly. And worst of all, one night when she tried to get them to quiet down, Lily had pushed her. Physically, I asked, stunned. "Yes," she said, her voice breaking. She shoved me into the hallway. "Madison, I didn't know what to do." I listened quietly. She cried, she rambled, she apologized in between sobs. "I didn't realize how much I hurt you. I slapped you on your birthday, and you were just trying to protect yourself." Silence stretched between us. "I need your help," she whispered. I closed my eyes. "Mom," I said, "you made your choice. You picked Lily. You believed her lies. You slapped me in front of my friends and called me a mistake. Now you want me to fix the mess she made." "I didn't know," she said quickly. "I didn't know she'd turn out like this. I thought I was helping her." "No," I said quietly. "You weren't helping her. You were enabling her." Silence again. "You need to handle this yourself," I continued. "I already cleaned up my apartment. I'm not cleaning up your house." She tried to say something else, but I hung up. I stared at the phone in my lap. No tears this time, just a quiet kind of ache, like a wound that had finally stopped bleeding, but still throbbed in the cold. Maya called me the next day. "So your mom finally called you?" "Yeah." "Are you okay?" "Better than I expected." "Good." "Because it's getting worse. She's trying to evict them." "Good luck with that," I muttered. "She filed papers. Cops came again last night. Loud music, some guy throwing up on the lawn. Apparently Jeffrey screamed at one of the neighbors. It's a mess." I didn't feel joy in hearing it, but I didn't feel guilt either. Letting Lily into my home had nearly undone me. I worked too hard to let her take that away, and Mom, she had to learn the way I had through hard, painful experience. I'd always been the responsible one. The planner, the boring one. But maybe boring was just another word for boundaries, for knowing your worth. And for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid to enforce them. By the time spring rolled into summer, Mom's house had turned into a war zone. Maya kept me updated like a family news anchor, police visits, loud parties, fights in the front yard. Neighbors complaining. The neighborhood watch lady apparently threatened to file a formal report if those two punks weren't removed soon. Meanwhile, my apartment felt like a sanctuary. It took weeks to fix the damage Lily left behind, but I did it. New curtains, new rug, a few peace lilies for the living room. Things that stayed where I put them. Didn't smell like smoke and never screamed at 3 a.m. I made a habit of sitting by my window every morning, coffee in hand, listening to the quiet hum of the world. That was something I didn't take for granted anymore. Silence had become sacred. Mom tried to call again. I didn't answer. I'd blocked her number, but she got creative, burner phone. Maybe I didn't pick up, and I didn't respond to her voicemail either. She cried on the recording, said she was scared and exhausted, said Lily and Jeffrey were bleeding her dry, and that she'd finally realized how wrong she'd been. She said my name like it was something breakable. I deleted the voicemail. That weekend, I met Maya for lunch. She wore sunglasses, even though we were indoors, and sipped her iced tea like she had something hot to spill. "They're being evicted," she said. I blinked seriously. "They got the paperwork last week. Mom filed everything properly. Jeffrey screamed at her. Lily threw a candle at the wall. Wow. Yep, cops came again. I took a deep breath. So what now? They're being forced out. They have 10 days to leave. I stared out the window, watching people pass on the sidewalk. Life didn't stop, even when yours felt like it had flipped inside out. Maya leaned forward. You could talk to Mom now, maybe offer her support. She's alone. I shook my head. She made her choices. I made mine. You don't have to forgive her all at once, she said softly. But maybe talk, just talk. I didn't answer right away. I wasn't angry anymore, but I wasn't ready either. A week after the eviction deadline, I got another voicemail. I almost didn't listen. But something about Mom's voice sounded empty. They're gone, she said. The house is quiet now. Too quiet. I've been thinking about everything you said. Madison. About boundaries, about love. About what it means to really show up for someone. She paused. I heard her take a shaky breath. I don't expect you to forgive me. But I need you to know I'm trying. I don't know how to fix what I broke, but I want to try. Click. I didn't know what to do with that. Part of me felt her words too late. Like the first rain, after a drought that already turned everything to dust. Another part, a smaller, quieter part, heard something real in her voice. Not desperation, regret. That Friday, I invited Maya over. She brought wine, I made pasta, and we watched reruns on the couch. Halfway through the second episode, she looked over at me and said, Mom's not perfect, but she might be changing. I think she's finally seeing Lily for who she really is. I didn't say anything. I just nodded and kept sipping my wine. Change. I'd learned it didn't happen in a single phone call or one grand apology. It happened in the little things. In showing up, in not slapping your daughter across the face and pretending it was love. The next Sunday I called Mom, not to mend everything. Not yet, but to talk. She answered on the second ring, and for a second, it was just breathing on both ends. Then she said, Madison, yeah, I figured we could talk. And we did. She didn't cry this time. She didn't beg, she just listened. She told me how the house felt like a shell, how she couldn't believe she let it all happen, let Lily destroy everything. She said she'd started therapy on her own. I didn't know if that would last. But the fact that she went at all meant something. When she asked if we could meet, I hesitated. But I said yes. We met at a coffee shop halfway between our homes, neutral ground. She looked older than I remembered, tired, like she hadn't slept properly in months. We didn't hug, we didn't cry. We just sat there, two women carrying history in their bones, and tried to lay it down gently, piece by piece. I still don't fully trust you, I said. I know, I'm still hurt. I know, but I'm open to trying slowly. She nodded. That's more than I deserve. Thank you. We started small. She called every couple weeks, not to lecture, not to guilt trip, just to chat. Ask about work, share a recipe. Tell me about a book she read. No mentions of Lily, no defenses. She was quiet when I needed her to be, and careful with her words. It was weird but not unwelcome. Maya was thrilled. You're doing it. She said you're rebuilding. Maybe, I replied, brick by brick. As for Lily, I don't know where she ended up. Maya said she and Jeffrey bounced around for a while, some friend's couch, maybe a motel. Last I heard, they broke up. But I stopped asking. That part of the story wasn't mine to carry anymore. She burned her bridge. I let the ashes go. On my next birthday, I threw a small party. Same friends, same chocolate cake from Janet, same houseplant from Maya. This time, though, I sent Mom an invite. I didn't expect her to show, but she did. She brought flowers, ones she remembered I liked. She hugged me gently. She whispered, "Thank you for giving me another chance." And this time, I believed her. Healing doesn't come all at once. It doesn't shout, it whispers. It grows quietly like roots, threading through rock, stronger for having fought so hard to survive. And me, I'm still growing. I've got peace in my home. I've got people who respect me. I've got boundaries. And I've got a future that no one, not Lily, not my mother, not anyone gets to rewrite, but me. Story 3. Thanksgiving morning in Chicago. Has this quiet that makes everything feel colder than it already is. I'd just finished packing my carry-on when I stood there staring out my high-rise apartment window, watching the wind toss around last night's leftover leaves. Another year, another family trip I wasn't looking forward to. The destination: the breakers in Palm Beach, Florida. Lavish, historic, expensive. Grandpa paid for it all, like always. My name is AmITheA Raymond, 34. Research director at a biopharma company, $165K salary. No spouse, no kids, just me and my investment portfolio. And I worked for every penny of it. The irony: my parents and younger sister Claire live like royalty, entirely off Grandpa's generosity. Claire's 31. A former flight attendant turned influencer mom. Every week, she's posting her kid's ballet recital, her husband's business brunch, or some monogrammed box of skincare she never paid for. But behind the filters, they're drowning in loans and school fees. My parents, Brian and Denise, live in a beachside community in Del Rey. Also on Grandpa's dime, they've always adored me. I was the independent one, self-sufficient, invisible. Growing up, I paid for college through scholarships and barista shifts, while Claire flew to Paris to find herself on Dad's Amex. Still, I showed up to these family trips every year, out of obligation, out of hope, maybe. Hope that they'd finally see me. This time, I almost didn't go. Something about the weight of tradition felt heavier than usual. But the ticket was booked, and Grandpa had asked me himself. When I stepped into the breaker's lobby, wheeling my navy blue Samsonite, it smelled like citrus and wealth. Marble floors, chandeliers, soft jazz humming from somewhere above. I was dressed simple cream cashmere wrap dress, low heels, hair tied in a clean bun. A quiet kind of put together. My parents stood off to the side, sipping drinks, pretending not to see me. I walked up to the check-in desk. "Hi," I said, smiling politely. "Reservation under Raymond." The concierge typed, squinted, frowned. "I see reservations for Brian Raymond, Claire Delaney, and Matthew Delaney. I'm not seeing one for an AmITheA Raymond." I blinked. That can't be right. He double-checked, nothing. And then I heard it. Click, click, heels approaching. Eliza Claire sang out, her designer bag swinging on her wrist. She wore a lemon-colored maxi dress, and a self-satisfied smile finally made it. "Claire," I nodded. She glanced at the computer screen. "Oh," she said, voice rising just enough to be heard across the lobby. "No reservation." That's so weird. Pause. Then leaning in faux whisper, "I only booked for Mom, Dad, me, Matt, and Emma. You know, actual families." She smiled again, a little wider this time. I looked at her, looked past her. Mom and Dad had turned their backs. My stomach dropped. "You didn't think I'd need a room?" I asked, calm. Claire gave a half shrug. "Well, you're single." "No kids. You always say you don't mind being alone." It felt like a punch wrapped in politeness. I straightened my spine. "Got it," I said. "Then I'll leave." What her smile faltered, but I was already turning. "Eliza, wait," I heard Mom call half-heartedly. I didn't. Outside, the breeze off the ocean kissed my skin. I called a taxi back to the airport. As I waited under the palm trees, a strange clarity washed over me, like someone had finally shut off the static in my head. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I just left. As the cab pulled away, I glanced back at the hotel's grandeur. A beautiful mask over an empty performance. One I was done playing a part in. By the time I reached the airport, Claire had already called 4 times. A text came through. "You're being ridiculous. Think about Emma. She was excited to see you." Emma, her daughter, 7 years old, sweet kid. I'd brought her a small present, a carved hair clip inlaid with pearl. It was still zipped up in my carry-on. I didn't respond. Instead, I called the one person who had always treated me like I mattered. "Grandpa," I said when he answered. "Eliza, what's wrong?" I told him everything, just the facts, no tears. There was a long silence on the other end. "I'll take care of it," he finally said, voice low and steady. That night, as I boarded an early flight back to Chicago, the flood began. Voicemails, emails, texts. Claire's were dripping with guilt, adjacent manipulation. Emma cried herself to sleep. "Everyone noticed you weren't there. You embarrassed us." My mother's was colder. "You're making a scene. You could have just booked your own room. You make good money, don't you?" My father's message was simple. "Claire has a family. Be reasonable." They hadn't changed. They weren't going to, but I had The plane took off, and I stared out the window as the lights of Palm Beach faded behind me. I thought about Grandpa's old saying, "Some people build a life on borrowed bricks. You build your own." And for the first time, I truly understood what he meant. I landed back in Chicago around midnight. The city was half asleep, blanketed in cold silence. The air smelled like snow. By the time I got home, I had over 80 unread messages. I didn't open any of them. Instead, I brewed chamomile tea, lit a candle, and unpacked slowly, methodically. I placed the small gift I'd gotten for Emma, the pearl hair clip, back in my drawer, still wrapped, still untouched. I didn't sleep much that night, not because I was upset, but because I felt strangely still, like a door had finally closed behind me. The next morning, I turned my phone back on. A new email pinged in subject line "Family Status Update." It was from Grandpa, sent to the entire family. Effective immediately, all financial assistance provided to Brian and Denise, Raymond Claire Delaney, and her household is frozen. This includes monthly stipends, tuition coverage, insurance subsidies, and real estate contributions. The incident at the Breakers, deliberate, petty, and humiliating, has made it clear who values family and who values image. Eliza built her life alone. She asked for nothing. She earned everything. She deserves respect. If that's too high a bar for this family, then it's time to reassess who truly understands the meaning of kinship. I sat there in my kitchen holding my tea, watching the words settle into my bones. It didn't feel like revenge. It felt like clarity. What followed next was exactly what I expected, and nothing I was responsible for. Claire called me 12 times that morning. When I didn't pick up, she left a voicemail, sobbing, "Eliza, please talk to him. You can fix this." I didn't mean what I said. It was a joke. You know how I get. A minute later, another voicemail. "Do you even care what this is doing to Emma? To us, we can't pay the mortgage without Grandpa's help." I put my phone on silent. An hour later came a message from her husband, Matt, short, cold, angry. "Not sure what kind of stunt you pulled, but thanks for tanking our finances right before the holidays." As if I'd flipped the switch. Then came my parents. Mom's first message was the usual mix of guilt and passive aggression. "You've always been so sensitive. Claire was just being silly. You should have said something at the time." Then, as reality set in, her tone changed. "Do you know what happens if we lose the deposit on the retirement condo? It's $150K gone. That's our future." Dad followed with something clipped and impersonal. "You need to talk to your grandfather. Now this family is unraveling." I didn't reply, because it wasn't unraveling. It had already unraveled. They just never noticed the threads were fake. Later that week, Grandpa emailed me privately. "I meant every word. Eliza, I let them lean on me too long. You reminded me that help should come with standards, not silence." Attached was a screenshot of his updated financial directives. Every monthly payment, every automatic deposit terminated. Claire and her family lost their private school stipend, mortgage assistance, and car lease support. My parents. Their luxury condo reserve and medical premiums gone. All of it. Cut off at once. And then it got quiet, which was somehow louder than the chaos before. By December, my sister's Instagram had gone dark. Her last post was still the pre-Thanksgiving brag shot, champagne flute designer watch captioned, "Blessed." Now radio silence. I didn't have to guess what was happening. It started trickling through the grapevine. Claire called our cousin Mia, crying. They'd defaulted on their credit card bill. Matt was furious. They were behind on the car note. Emma's school sent a late payment warning. They were considering pulling her out. My parents called Grandpa directly. He didn't answer. Next, they tried me again. This time, Mom actually said the words I never thought I'd hear. "We were wrong about everything, about how we treated you. Please just talk to him, help us." And maybe 5 years ago I might have, but now I just felt tired. Tired of being the backup plan. Tired of being invisible until someone needed me. I spent Christmas alone that year, and for the first time, it wasn't lonely. I cooked a small meal, lit a fire, and listened to a Miles Davis record on vinyl. Outside, the city slept. Inside, I breathed. The messages kept coming, though, fewer each day. Claire's tone shifted from rage to panic to resignation. "We might have to sell the house. Emma's starting public school in January. Matt wants a separation." Eventually, she stopped blaming me. That's when I knew they were truly on their own. Even Mom's tone softened. Your father and I are moving to a smaller condo. It's not what we wanted, but we'll manage. Maybe it's time we did. Maybe. But it was time I stopped managing it for them. Meanwhile, my own life moved forward. At work, I landed a lead on a new clinical trial. My boss promoted me to senior research director. My pay went up, so did my equity shares. I joined a weekend investment group downtown, started mentoring junior scientists, even signed up for a winter writing class, something I'd always said I'd do later. Turns out later comes faster when you stop pouring energy into people who never saw your value. My apartment felt more like home than ever. Quiet, clean, safe. One afternoon in January, I walked to the lakefront after work. It had snowed lightly. The waves were frozen at the edges. I thought about Emma. I thought about the hair clip still in my drawer, and I wondered if she even remembered me. Spring came late in Chicago that year. March felt like February, and April still clung to frost. But inside, my life had warmed. My days were steady, simple routines, strong coffee, morning walks to work under gray skies that slowly softened into blue. 3 months had passed since the breakers incident, and though I had chosen silence, life had gone on for all of us, just in very different directions. One morning, I got a short email from Mom. We've sold the house. The new condo is small but cozy. I miss the sunroom. We've had to cut some things, but we're managing. No guilt, no begging, just reality for once, honest. 2 days later, a package arrived at my door. Inside was a small photo of me and Emma, taken 2 years earlier on a Thanksgiving walk by the beach. She was laughing mid-spin, holding my hand. I didn't even know the photo existed. There was a note tucked behind the frame. From Claire, I don't expect forgiveness. But I hope you know, Emma still talks about you. She misses her aunt. I miss you too. I was cruel. I'm sorry. It wasn't dramatic. Just a thin page with shaky handwriting. But something about it felt different. Not manipulative, not performative, just tired, just honest. I didn't write back, not because I was angry, but because I didn't know yet if I was ready. Instead, I slipped the photo onto the shelf above my desk, right beside the hair clip I'd once planned to give Emma Still, wrapped in silver paper. That night, I made dinner from scratch pasta with roasted garlic and thyme. I ate slowly, thinking about everything that had changed, not just around me, but inside me. For so long, I thought strength was proving myself, staying quiet, carrying weight so others wouldn't break. But now I understood strength was setting the weight down. It was saying no when everyone expected yes. It was leaving the hotel when the room wasn't reserved. By summer, things had settled. Claire got a part-time job as a receptionist at a local dental office. Matt started delivering for a courier service on weekends. They downsized to a modest home outside the city, and Emma enrolled in public school. There were no more designer bags on Instagram. No vacation photos. Just silence. Mom and Dad adjusted too. Their new condo was half the size of the old one, and they'd started budgeting for the first time in decades. In July, Grandpa invited me to dinner. We met at a quiet bistro off Michigan Avenue. The kind with cloth napkins and no music, just soft lighting and steady silverware sounds. He looked older, or maybe I was seeing him clearly for the first time. Not just as the sharp businessman who taught me about Roth IRAs at age 12, but as a man who had tried to keep his family afloat too long on borrowed peace. We didn't talk about what happened until the dessert arrived. Then he set down his spoon and said simply, "You gave me the clarity I couldn't find on my own." I didn't know how to respond, I just nodded. "You know," he added, "your independence used to worry me. I thought it meant loneliness. But now I see it's something different. You built a life no one can take from you." That stayed with me for a long time. Later that month, I checked the mail and found a card addressed in neat, blocky handwriting. Inside, a crayon drawing of a woman with glasses holding hands with a little girl. A note scribbled underneath, "I miss you, Aunt Liza. I'm learning to braid my own hair. Now, love, Emma." There was no return address. No signature from Claire. Just Emma, just her. And I cried. Not because of pain, but because maybe, just maybe, something good would grow from all this. I didn't reply with words. But I took the pearl hair clip out of the drawer, wrote a short note and mailed it to their address. When you're ready, wear this. You've always been more than enough. Love, Aunt Liza. Fall came early that year. The air smelled like leaves and clean wind. My work was thriving. I'd begun mentoring 2 junior researchers who reminded me of my younger self. Quiet, determined, sharp, I was asked to speak at a Women in STEM panel. I accepted. My life didn't look flashy. It didn't photograph well. But it felt real. No noise, no performances, just peace. One Saturday in October, while cleaning out a drawer, I found the printed photo Claire had sent, the one of Emma and me on the beach. I stared at it for a long time, then slid it into a new frame. That weekend, I walked to the lake and sat alone for a while. The wind was brisk. Kids rode bikes down the path. Couples held hands. Leaves blew across the sidewalk like little gold boats. I looked up at the sky, wide and clear, and thought of everything that had led me here. And I smiled, not because everything was perfect, but because I was free. Free of expectations I never agreed to carry, free from guilt that was never mine to bear, free from the lie that family means loyalty without limits. And in that freedom, I had finally found home.